Hi, I'm Tom Loucks, Wisconsin Rapids Community Media Coordinator for the City of Wisconsin Rapids. And this is Get to Know Your City, and thank you for joining us. And today I have Ray Starks with me. Hi, Ray. How are you?
Hi, Tom. I'm doing great.
And he is the Ordinance Control Officer for the City of Wisconsin Rapids, and we're going to talk about a new app that we have on our SeeClickFix app that's used to report issues, but this one's a bit different. But before we go to that, Ray, introduce yourself just in case anybody doesn't know who you are, and then we can get into the Rapids Pride.
Okay. My name is Ray Starks. I've been with the city for a few years now as the Ordinance Control Officer. So, interesting occupation, I guess.
Definitely. Well, if anybody knows Ray, he was working for the Sheriff's Department for many years and went to Afghanistan and as well other things in between, and now he's been here with the city for several years, and you'll see him out in a gray, I don't remember the
Ford Explorer.
Ford Explorer. It does have a nameplate on it, so if you guys see him going around looking at things like garbage in yards, we're going to talk about that. So, Ray, let's talk about this new app called Rapids Pride. It's a little piece, I think, that looks like this, if I'm right.
Actually, it's hands.
Hands. Oops, I'm wrong.
Set of hands with some people in the hands.
Okay, well, let's tell people how they can use it and why we developed it.
Sure. And this is all powered by a cell phone app that we're already using. You can put it on your cell phone if you have a smartphone, or if you want to use your computer at home, you can get it on there. And it's called SeeClickFix, just like it sounds. If you see it, click on it, and we'll fix it. That's the premise behind the app. And recently we've added a new button to the app. If you scroll down if you download SeeClickFix and you scroll down, you'll find a button, and there are, like you say, the hands, and there's people within the hands, and it's called Rapids Pride. And it's SeeClickFix as an app is all about reporting things that you see that are wrong.
Right.
Okay, when you see something that doesn't look right to you or you think needs to be checked on by the city, you report them and it comes to the proper department, whether that's me or the streets department, police department, waterworks and light. You can report all kinds of things. But within SeeClickFix, we wanted to have something for reporting something good, something nice for a change. We all deal with things we don't like in the city. Let's look at something we like. And right now, the big push is to get you to report Christmas lights. People are decorating their homes, and there's a lot of beautiful homes in the community that have a lot of pretty lights on them. And we're encouraging people to go on there, push the button, and that'll take you to another site where you can tag residents. You can type in the address. You can use the tag that goes with the mapping on there, and it'll show you not only where you tag, but it'll show you other points of interest where other people have said, hey, these are great looking lights and people need to know about this.
That's a great opportunity for us and as the viewer that's driving around. How many times do you drive aimlessly looking for these lights? And someone says, oh, they're over here, and you never find it. So they can pull out their cell phone as long as they're stopped. They should be stopped.
Absolutely.
And they can find the addresses or do it earlier. They don't have to be going out. They could do it from their home, their desktop computer. Is that right?
Certainly. You can do it from your laptop, your desktop. Just download SeeClickFix.
Okay.
Either on your smartphone or on your desktop or laptop, and you'll find it'll come up with Wisconsin Rapids. It'll ask you where you are.
Okay.
And if you're not quite in Wisconsin Rapids and it's trying to choose between communities, it'll ask, and then you just put in Wisconsin Rapids, and you'll find the button there.
And then it'll show Rapids logo. Is that right?
It'll show a logo from Wisconsin Rapids, our water and our rapids.
Okay. So then they know they're on our site, and there's other buttons, and I guess why don't we talk about those other buttons? They're above there. You know best. I don't know what those all are every time, but what do those do?
Well, the main button on the SeeClickFix app is the report button. And what happens is we wanted to give people an opportunity to report things to us without having to stop and make a phone call or having to contact us directly or stop at City Hall, which a lot of people used to do. By having SeeClickFix, they can go to SeeClickFix, they can hit the button on SeeClickFix that says report, and it'll come up and It'll geolocate you, but I always prefer that you use an exact address, because sometimes, geolocation is usually within 100 feet or so, and that's sometimes a range of addresses in some of these city streets. So I prefer that you type in the actual address, but it'll get me close. You can take a picture of it, and you can tell me what's wrong with it. A lot of things that we report are garbage complaints, things that don't look right on a property. There's a lot of trash on a property. Right now, a big complaint I'm getting is snowy sidewalks. That's a big one. You have to shovel. But you can report that by using SeeClickFix. It goes directly to the party it needs to get to. And we respond, which is something people have always complained about in the past. They didn't know if their complaints were being received. You leave a telephone message, and unless you leave a phone number or something, nobody gets back to you, and you don't know. I wonder if they got that. I wonder if anybody looked at it. Well, you're going to get a response. The first response you're going to get is a little message from the mayor saying, thank you for reporting this, and it's been assigned to the proper department, and it'll tell you which department received it. In my case, it's code enforcement. Otherwise, we also have the streets department. We have the parks department, so you can report things in the parks. We have the police department for non-emergency. Of course, if it's an emergency, you're going to dial 911. Don't depend on an app to do that for you. But waterworks and light, if you have a lighting problem or the stoplights are broken or something, you can report that on SeeClickFix. And then it goes to that proper department, and a person in that department, usually anywhere from 1 to 3 people, will have access to this. It'll pop up. For me, it goes to an email immediately, and I get an email saying, we have a problem at this address. And then I can respond. I'll first acknowledge the complaint, tell you, I received it, and we're going to look into it. And then at some point, we're going to close it, and you'll get a response back from the city that said, we looked at it, we've closed it. So, or it's still an open complaint, or it's an ongoing thing.
Okay. Well, that sounds easy to do.
It is.
All you have to do is report on your smartphone or desktop, you said, right?
Desktop or laptop.
So computer, doesn't matter.
Mm-hmm.
And when you get home, you can do it. You can be anonymous, is that right? Some people
Absolutely.
don't like to be their name on there.
No, it's you can choose to be anonymous, or you can choose to put in something that would identify you, but it is going to record a way to get a hold of you, and that's generally through an email. It's going to when you first set this up, it's going to ask you for an email. I don't always see the email. I don't unless you use that as your reply to. I don't see the email address, but it's there, and no one within the city sees it. But we have to have a place to send that message to.
Sure.
So it automatically goes to your email address.
Okay. Now, you're Monday through Friday.
Yes.
So if there's a light out, it still get fixed on a weekend?
Depends on where it's going to, what department.
Right. Okay.
There's always somebody at Waterworks and Light. There's always, there's people available at the Streets Department.
Mm-hmm.
If it's a garbage complaint or something like that, it's not something that has to be attended to, after 4 o'clock in the evening. It's like, now that can generally wait till the next day.
Right. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So I don't deal in emergencies.
Okay.
That's what a police department's for.
Right.
I deal in the things that I can get to, and generally they stack up. So of course, of any given day, there's a lot of them stacked up waiting for me.
All right. Well, if you're just joining us here, I'm sitting down with our code enforcement officer, Ray Starks, with the city of Wisconsin Rapids, and we're learning about an app called SeeClickFix, and we've had that for quite some time. And we talked about Rapids Pride, and you can use that right now for reporting Christmas lights. So we want to report good Christmas lights, fun displays, something unique, but mark your own. And this is a chance for people that like to drive around over the next few weeks to see those lights. And we're only going to probably extend that down the road, we hope. And maybe when that happens, we'll come back and talk about it. So, but Ray, you're with Community Development. That is a name change in the last year, is that right? So
Right.
Just in case they're not sure where to get a hold of you and they want to meet you at City Hall, or they're trying to call, what department is this in?
Sure. This is the old Planning and Economic Development Department. We're on the second floor of City Hall. If you come in and take the elevator to the second floor and go down straight off the elevators down the hall, just to your left, you'll see engineering across the street from us, across the aisle there, and then we're on the left-hand side. This is where you get all of your permits, and you have zoning questions, and I'm attached to that department.
Okay. But people can make an appointment if they want to actually see you.
Oh, absolutely.
Or you can you're on the road a lot, so most of your work is in your vehicle and
Yes.
and out, and you're totally mobile with electronics, so you can
Yes, I am.
basically do anything from your vehicle.
Yeah, the electronics have caught up with me, so I can't get away from it anymore. I'm now into the right century, and we're out there looking and responding on the fly,
All right.
literally.
Let's talk about some common violations. We talked about shoveling snow, but it's been a year now, almost a year, 2017, we started with our new recycling program. You're kind of part of that. You want to make sure things are recycled correctly in the cart.
Correct.
Just explain which way this cart needs to be. It's pretty easy, but it's easy to mix up.
Sure. Earlier this year, every residence received a recycling cart. Now, if you have a duplex, you receive 2. A triplex, you receive 3. If you live in an apartment, your landlord is supposed to supply you with a bin, because these carts aren't that large. You have to have a lot of room if you have an apartment building and multiple dwellers. But this year we put these carts out, and attached to each cart was an explanation packet that told you how to put things. But we understand that not all of these explanation packets were read. And some of these, now they've been there long enough to where tenants have changed, residents have moved away, and new residents have moved in. So we do have a few issues coming up with these big green recycling carts. So you can't miss them. They're green and they say recycling on them, and each one is numbered because it's actually delivered to an address, and it's at that address because that first cart, the city provided all of that through a grant program. Some of the main things we're finding with these carts is people put them out and they're facing the wrong direction. Now, why is that important? It's just a cart, it's a big bin. Well, if you don't face it the right direction, the truck can't pick it up. See, we're trying to streamline this now. We're becoming more efficient. Where it used to be 2 or 3 guys on a truck, picking things up and throwing them in the back, it's now 1 truck, 1 driver. And he drives along, he pulls up to the bin, he looks in the camera, lines himself up with the cart. The truck extends an arm, picks it up, dumps it, puts it back down. That's why it's important to have it facing the right way. If you look at your cart, if you go out and you look at the top of the cart, there's a black lid, and on that lid there's an arrow. That arrow has to point to the street. If you look at the cart itself, there's a silver bar. That silver bar in the front has to point to the street for proper mechanical pickup. The person in the truck isn't supposed to be getting out, turning your bins around, or changing these things. The object is to have him be very, very efficient and do this in a timely fashion where he can cover a large territory all at once and get it done all by himself rather than having 2 or 3 people out there. So.
Yeah, it's definitely probably made a difference for doing some other things in the city as well. We're not getting rid of people. We're just using those people in another area, just in case people are wondering that. So it's just an efficiency for instead of having 3 guys, you got 1 guy. But I suppose right now the guy is getting out, but after a while that will probably not be the case, and then it won't get dumped, right?
It's coming to an end. He doesn't get out much now.
Okay.
What happens is when he sees these things, he's able to SeeClickFix me.
Okay.
And he tells me about it. And while I do attempt to make contact at these residences, I'm doing this during the day. A lot of people aren't home during the day. Some people are sleeping during the day. They don't want to be bothered. Other issues come up, and if I get a stack of 10 of these from the driver, it's tough to get to every one of them. So at worst, at best, you're going to get a tag on your bin. Now, he's going to tag the bin. He's got a wire tag that he wraps on their tag, tells you what's on there. Well, you go out to get your bin at dark when you get home or in the morning, whenever it is, and it's dark, you don't pay attention to the tag. Some people do. Some people don't even see it. So when SeeClick fixes me, I'm going to send you a letter.
Oh,
And that letter is going to explain. Now, it's a very official looking letter. It's computer generated, and it tells you, oh, you may be fined and all this.
Right.
We understand it's a learning program. This is still relatively new, and we know that eventually, one day, we hope to do this with the garbage bins too. Yep. So, we have to teach people. We have to instruct people. So when you get the letter, don't panic and think, I'm getting a fine. You're not. You're getting a letter to remind you that you need to face your bin the right way, or you can't overfill it. That's another huge problem we have is people aren't breaking down their cardboard. Well, they used to be able to fill a cardboard box full of paper, put the cardboard box out. Now you put everything into the bin. It's all co-mingled, whether it's aluminum cans, plastic, cardboard, newspaper, anything that's recyclable within certain limitations. Of course, we can't take. The other day I had one that had a sink in it. Now,
okay.
While that may be recyclable at a junkyard, it's not recyclable in the city recycling plan and the commingled recycling. So that can't be in there. And it all has to fit down inside of that bin, and the lid has to close. Now, you may not think that's really important until you come along one day and find that your recycling is spread out from your curb across half the neighborhood because the wind was blowing and the lid was up, and when he went to pick up the bin, stuff started to fall out before he got to the top of the truck. And that's what happens with the lid's not closed. So we ask that everything be compacted down to fit within the bin with the lid closed. And we ask that you break down your cardboard. If you don't want to break down cardboard, if you don't want to go through that, you can do cardboard recycling on your own. The landfill does accept recycling all by itself. You can take that in by yourself. Or the former paper mill over here also takes cardboard and paper recycling too.
That's right. They have a place that they can just dump it in.
Mm-hmm.
So, well,
but the easiest way is break it down, put it in the bin.
Yeah.
We'll pick it up. Let us do it.
Yep.
That's what we're here for.
Exactly. 96-gallon can or 48, right?
Or 48. Most people took the 96.
Okay.
Few people didn't want anything that big, so they took the smaller one. But
sure.
Generally, they don't have that much recycling.
Well, if they need one, they're asking, I don't have a can. Who do they call, you or the garage?
Call the city garage.
Okay.
You call them and talk to them. They're the ones that distribute and maintain the cans.
Okay.
I'm just the guy that gets the bad news when something goes wrong.
Okay.
So somebody's got to get the bad
right,
news.
definitely. Well, if you've been watching our channel off and on, you have seen some of these ordinance control videos that we've done by our multimedia specialist, Jesse Austin. And there's been quite a few that he's worked with you recently over the past year. And those were more geared for summer grass and stuff like that.
Yes.
I don't know if there was anything on parking, but there was things on parking on your lawn. I remember one, you cannot have a broken down vehicle that doesn't run.
Correct.
And just briefly explain, if it doesn't start, doesn't move, and not licensed, that has to be in your garage.
It has to be underneath cover. It has to be in a garage where it's not visible. The big thing there is curb appeal. Everybody in the city talks about curb appeal. And if you've got a yard full of junk, broken down cars, it devalues your property and your neighbor's property. It also, if you're working on a car, there's more reasons than just curb appeal for why we do these things. If you're working on an automobile, fluid spill, things dump out of it, even the rust that flakes off of something you're working on, all that tends to wash down into the curbs, and it all washes into our water transportation, and eventually that ends up in the river. And there's been a lot of work over the years to get that river clean enough where we like to see the swimmers out there, the boaters out there. We want to keep it that way. And part of keeping it that way is maintaining our yards, because people don't remember that the things in their yards are going to wash down into that curb, into the gutters, and into our sewer system. So we want to keep that clean. We don't want antifreeze. We don't want oil. We don't want transmission fluid. We don't want those things going down into our gutters. And we also don't want them going into our groundwater.
Exactly. And you don't want to make your neighbor mad. because I'm sure that happens. A
It
lot
does.
of times, you have to deal with that, but it's easier to follow the rules. They can go to the city website, wirapids.org. I believe they can go on to ordinances. It's a
Yes.
bit complex. I guess if they have questions, they can talk to the clerk as well.
Yes.
He handles all the ordinances, and that's where they're listed. It's actually in a nicer form, I know, than it used to be. So it is updated. Ordinances are updated
Yes.
by the clerk, so they're up to date, and they are changed when something's passed by the council. So that's a good thing. So it's new, and they're keeping up to date. A few years ago, it really wasn't that way. So I think that's another a good addition. So Ray, we're probably coming down to the end of this program. Anything else that you want to mention about code enforcement or what you're doing?
Code enforcement is actually neighborhood beautification. And the only thing I would ask, and this is what I tell a lot of people that I have to deal with, take a walk out to the end of your driveway, look up and down your neighborhood and look at your property. How does it fit within the neighborhood? We want our neighborhoods to look nice. We're trying to make this a wonderful place to be, a good, safe place for our community and for the citizens here. And take a look at your own property. Don't always call me about your neighbors. I understand that when your neighbors aren't up to par, you need to call and contact me or go on SeeClickFix. But take a look at your properties and look and say, gee, mine looks pretty good, or you know what? I could pick up a few things around here and raise my curb appeal.
All righty. That's a good message for everybody to leave with. I'll say one more thing. It's the winter season, and I don't think there's an ordinance about shoveling your fire hydrant, but I think it's a very good point if once we get more snow, that you want to keep it clean, and the fire department would definitely appreciate it, and if there is a fire, you're definitely going to want that clean because time is an essence. So do that. I know that's something that the chief would want us to mention, and I guess if you have any questions about that and if it doesn't work, report it to the fire department. So again, Ray, thanks again for coming and sharing all that information about ordinance control, and mark those Christmas lights on that new piece on our app. It's called Rapids Pride, and what you may have to do is refresh your browser. Just remember that if you're not seeing it, refresh the browser under Wisconsin Rapids, and you should be able to see it on your smartphone. Works on all smartphones, iOS and Android, as well as your desktop. So again, thanks for joining us here on Get to Know Your City. I'm Tom Loucks, and thanks again to Ray Starks, our Ordinance Control Officer.